Good morning, friends, regulars, new attendees, folks joining virtually, and then we got two Kents. Can you? We got a virtual Kent and a real inhuman Kent right here. Hi everyone.
Really scary.
They're scary. Those are Kent's words. Welcome to the June 2025 meeting of the Heartland 2050 Regional Planning Advisory Committee. Thank y'all for being here. It's always great to have a good turnover Friday. I think we might have quorum. I'm gonna look at that in a second. If you don't know if you are a voting member, don't be shy. Please acknowledge that. We want to make sure we have the right folks who can vote and ensure we have quorum for this meeting so we can get the business approved and get to it. We are here. The purpose of this meeting is for us to be friends and to know each other and work together to advance a collective regional vision for this community. We do so by supporting each other, bringing information to this table, sharing data, opening our minds in our respective communities to new ways of doing things and new ways of processing information. So as is customary at this meeting are introductions, and we always ask a question to get to know each other better. I had some ones that were out there this month, but I won't do that because we have a few first timers and we got an intern here. Katie, thank you for coming. We got interns in the house. Thank you for being here. My coworker Christy is here standing in for Brian. So we're gonna go easy on y'all. So if you would please introduce yourself, who you are, who you're representing, and maybe just give us this month a word that you're thinking about going into this weekend and maybe even into the summer season. Okay, so just a word or two that encapsulates that. Take a second to think about it. Got that word? Great. I'm Keith Station. I work in the city of Omaha mayor's office. Many of you have asked, and I appreciate it. I still have a job, Chris. That's a good thing, I think. Depending on if you live in Omaha, maybe not. And I have been there for about 5 years, and I hope to be there for 5 more. And the word I'm thinking about going into the weekend / summer is balance. Is what I'm going for. Balance. Chris, that's on you.
All right. Chris Gibbons, City Council Bluffs. Been a planning manager now for about 8 years, been in the city for almost 14 now. And what I'm looking forward to for this summer is the word fun. This is my time of year to enjoy the outdoor elements, enjoy the sun, barbecue, and time with friends. So that's what I'm here.
Very good. Mike Helgerson, Executive Director here with MAPA. Thanks for being here on a Friday. Thinking about the pool.
Ken Holm, Environmental Services Director for Douglas County. I really enjoyed the fact that it rained earlier this week. Need more rain. It's more than one word, but rain.
Farmers pray too, Ken.
Yeah.
Jody Holston, Executive Director of Front Porch Investments, and maybe restoration this weekend. Just want to nap, so catch up on some sleep.
Kevin Flager with the City of Papillion. I'm a planner one there, and my word was going to be rejuvenate because I'm looking for a rejuvenating summer, take some relaxing time, and get back on the in.
I'm Kelly Cruz. I'm the intern with the administrative team down at City of Papillion. And I guess my word would also be along the same lines. I was just gonna say relax, spend some time with family and friends. Okay, we go to
I'm Maggie Weigel. I'm with MAPA, the Community and Economic Development Department, Banner. I'm very new to Omaha. So my word this summer, I haven't figured out Midwestern summers yet, so, I don't know, popsicles, my kids like popsicles. We always have new plans.
You like it? Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Court, Transportation Planner with MAPA. My word is carless. I will be without the vehicle this weekend. My wife's going out of town, she's taking the car, so I will be getting around, if I am getting around, by bike, bus, or foot.
I'm Michelle Andal. I am the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Plan, and my last child is already graduated, is going to college. I'll be an empty nester, so my word is new chapter.
My name is Joe Flaxbeard. I'm a civil engineer with Lamprey Nearson. I'm the chair of the Housing and Development Committee. That's kind of new for me this year. I've got a 9-year-old and 5-year-old gonna be running around all summer, so the word I can think of is joy and skin knees. Yeah.
I thought you were going a different angle. Yo, I respect that though.
Everybody, I'm Andy, I'm a urban planner with Lamprey Nearson, and I would say my word is gonna be sunshine, because I enjoy the sunshine, right? Yeah.
Our sunshine man.
Chris Shuchek, I'm planning and zoning administrator for Washington County. My word for the summer is retirement. It's coming up.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Don't have a firm date yet, but sometime in the near future.
Chris Meeks, with OPPD. My word for right now for this weekend is vacation. I'm on vacation next week, so that's the focus of my mind right now. So.
Bruce Fountain, Community and Development Director for City of La Vista. I probably repeat a lot of the words. I think mine's probably rejuvenate or relax. We hosted the Nebraska Economic Developers Conference last week on top of La Vista Day, starting right after it. So I think our whole entire staff was worn out this week. And then what about 2/3 of them are going on vacation next week, so we're covering for them. Looking forward to relaxing and then traveling later in the summer.
I'm Christine Stokes, Development Services Director, City of Gretna. My phrase is lack of drama. Seriously, it's been crazy. So I would like to have some fun this summer. So.
I'm Christy Evans with City of Omaha Public Works Department. I would choose outside, whether it's pool or garden or ball games. So we'll be outside all weekend.
Nate Adams, I'm an architect at UNMC Nebraska Medicine, planning and designing construction department. See, you got outside. I'll go with cycling, so I'll be outside. I don't like it. So.
Cale Broderson, City of La Vista, and my word is cultivate. I just got some garden beds going finally this year, so having fun getting my hands dirty.
I'm Laura Heilman, I'm with MAPA, and I'm with Mike on pool. Last year I decided to give myself a metric for summer, and it was pool once a week, and I hit it, so working on it this year.
I'm Rachel Getch. I'm also a transportation planner with MAPA. My word would probably be homecoming. I have a lot of friends coming back into town this weekend.
Saul Lopez, Communications and Outreach Coordinator. And my word, I think, would be dissertation proposal this summer. So mine is gonna be a little bit boring. You're all lucky.
You said dissertation?
Dissertation proposal, yes.
Dr. Saul Lopez loading?
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Carlos Morales, Transportation Data Manager at MAPA. Closing time. That is what we're gonna work on this summer, and you'll see why we're gonna call it closing time. We're working on big projects that we're trying to get through. This summer is the year we're gonna close. So.
You're a closer, Carlos.
I am a closer.
Greg Anderson, Community Development Manager at MAPA. If you're into this sort of thing, basketball, NBA Finals, one of the best things about June. Game 1, very exciting.
The Battle of the Great Plains.
So
greater.
Indeed, we'll get to catch a game together, Grant. Yes, all right, yeah, next week. Terry.
But Terry Hawk, Moac, and I don't know the question, so.
The question, right on time, the question is, what is a word you're thinking about going into the weekend or to the summer season?
The word is relaxing.
I like it. We'll allow it in here. Would the virtual Kent like to go, or do we already cover it? Okay, all right. Oh, that's okay, okay.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, Keith. Laura Dietrich, Planning and Zoning Coordinator for Douglas County. My word is going to be savor. Savor some of the moments that I have coming up.
Ooh, we like it. Thanks for joining, Megan.
Hello, everybody. I'm Megan Ingberg. I am the Community Development Administrator for the City of Ralston, and my word is connection.
Thank you. Vicki.
Good morning, everyone. Vicki Quates-Ferris with the Empowerment Network. And unfortunately, my word is recovery. I had rotator cuff surgery a couple of weeks ago. So that's what I'll be doing throughout the summer is recovering and physical therapy. That's why I'm not there with you, but it's good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining, Vicki. And maybe you can recover by one of these pools with Laura or Mike. Thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Hey, Ashley.
Hi, morning, everyone. Ashley Ray Turner, Communications and Outreach Consultant, also the chair of the Blank and Engagement Committee. We'll let you know what equity-related word we come up with. And my word for the summer is promising.
Good. Thank you for that positive energy, Ashley. Well, thanks everybody. If you're keeping score here, we have Chris, Christy, and Christine in the room. Manny is sunshine. Let's get that in the minutes, please, if we could. And a lot of rest and restoration and relaxation is in the air, and we'll allow it here. That's a good thing, y'all, because we need to do that. And what a great season for it. So do we have quorum in here?
We're so close, but no, we have 14 today, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. And just for your information, quorum would be
15.
Are you kidding me?
So close, that's okay.
Close
We
here.
love you. It's June. We're so happy you guys are here. It's summer.
We rarely make quorum in committee meetings in June, just by virtue of.
Then that's a positive. Okay, well, great. Well, please observe the Open Meetings Act posted there for you. And since we cannot approve the minutes today, we will push that to the meeting, the next meeting, the April minutes approval. We'll also approve the June meeting minutes in August when we meet. So without any further ado, let's get right into the agenda here. And the La Vista team is here to talk about the active mobility plan. Caleb.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you. Yeah, Caleb Broderson, the city planner with La Vista, and was our project manager for our recently adopted active mobility plan. So you pull up our slides. Oh, you're good. I can just scroll through.
Go for
I'm gonna go through these pretty quick. Yeah, so just in January, we adopted this active mobility plan, worked on it all of 2024, and are pretty excited about it. So just wanted to walk you through what we did. So most of this group is probably familiar already with active mobility and this term, but essentially we were looking at any method of non-motorized or human-powered or electric-assisted transportation. So we were trying to look at all the ways people get in and around the city by walking, running, jogging, rolling, biking, skating, scootering, wheeling, or any way without a vehicle or using public transportation. So the main goal of our project was just to enhance mobility for, sorry, this is gonna be a little.
Yep.
Improve access and mobility for all users within and around La Vista. So some context for the plan and why we did it. So here is La Vista in the greater Omaha area. You'll see we've got some great assets, the regional trail system, the Keystone Trail, the West Papio Trail. So go right in or around or through the city, incredible assets, but we did not have very good and do not have very good connectivity to get to those trails in the city. So our residents have a hard time using that. We also have opportunities to bring people into the city that we're missing right now. So we need to make sure we connected to those and also just provide good east-west connectivity for people trying to get to school or go run errands. We've also got a kind of regional entertainment district, Southport area, so right by the interstates where the Alamo Draft House is, the multi-sport complex, the Cabela's and Costco, and with Smash Park, we've got a lot of interest in these entertainment, destination type uses that people would love to be able to get to on a bike or walking. And right now there is no way to get out there on the sidewalk or not, on the shoulder of a street. So big missed opportunity here. So those are kind of big reasons why we wanted to take on this plan and get some momentum going. So first, I'm just going to walk through some of the different community engagement, the public engagement activities that we did as part of the planning process. And then I'll talk about the results. So the first thing we did was a survey, pretty standard. We blasted it out with social media. We mailed out letters to all the residents. We put yard signs with QR codes in all of the parks and along the trails for this survey. Doing that meant that almost all the feedback we got was from existing, active users of our transportation system. So good and bad. And in La Vista, because of our development pattern, a lot of the users of active modes of transportation, they do it for recreation, right now. Now we know that we're hoping that when we make some improvements, we'll allow for people to use it to get to work or to run errands. But as of today, a lot of the users, it's just for recreation. So we tried to take advantage of that and learn from those people, where else could you go or where do you experience problems getting around the city? So I think 75% of respondents used active modes of transportation 3 or more days a week. So very active group that we got responses from for the survey. So we tried to fill those gaps with other means, but the biggest things that we heard is what people wanted is better crossings, better sidewalks, more trails, better connectivity. So all the kind of things that we anticipated hearing. We did ask targeted questions about, origin and destination. Where do you live? Where are you trying to get to? Where are there gaps in your transportation system? Probably the most useful activities that we did was some stakeholder workshops. So we got a bunch of people together, split up into small groups, and then just sat down around maps, started to put things down. Where are you looking to go? Where's an intersection that you've almost got hit by a car? Where, trying to find the problem areas and get it on paper was the most useful. We had over 80 different organizations represented in those stakeholder workshops. So it was neighboring jurisdictions, it was cyclists and runner groups or advocacy organizations, it was employers and business leaders and church groups, and really anyone who we could find a contact information for that is related to or around the city of La Vista. We tried to get represented there. We did some targeted tabling events at some city events in the summer, which is great. Get out in front of people.
So that's a yappy hour?
Yeah, yappy hour. Yeah, there's a pet event, kind of like a dog fair thing. A lot of users of our existing trails and parks. We did do some targeted engagement with our Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. We were clearly missing any sort of youth representation when we started to go through this data. And we know a lot of people who use our sidewalks right now are people who are too young to have a car. Where, we've in La Vista, a lot of people feel safe being out and about, but there are some safety concerns with intersections or wherever. So teenagers love to go from school to the Starbucks and back and forth and around. And so that was very useful in getting direct, very specific feedback about locations we need to do some work. So we synthesize all of that data in the plan, and then I'm just going to run through some of the other stuff that we looked at when we were putting together recommendations for the plan. We did look closely at different destinations. So where are people trying to go? Things we heard, the breweries, people want to be able to get to the breweries, they want to be able to access the trails, dining, schools, entertainment, all those things. We looked at sidewalk gaps. So there are a lot of places where there are not sidewalks servicing that area. There's some that are going to be a bigger lift, like some industrial areas where we didn't require them to build sidewalks, and we should have, because now they're full of these like indoor sports facilities, and they are packed and crowded on the weekends, and they've got a lot of people walking around without sidewalks. So some of those that we need to be very intentional and thoughtful about how we get that corrected and to get sidewalks in those places. And then there are other simple ones where it's just a lot where at some point the sidewalk disappeared and now there's no sidewalk, and we need to start chipping away at those. looked at our future land use map that we just recently redid. There's some locations where we anticipate some higher density housing potentially, or senior housing, that we need to start thinking through how we have better connectivity around those areas. We looked at the regional trail system.
Yeah, it's not better, but it's okay.
Strava data was very useful to find how people are today getting through the city. And this is especially useful when we're looking for on-street facilities, where does it make sense to put bike lanes or shared bike routes, and finding the way that people already think feels the most comfortable to get through the city is a really good place to start in doing that. Looked at how this connects with the greater trail system, the Great American Rail Trail. We looked at bike share stations. This was a big topic of conversation. We are right here in this big gap in the Omaha metro area. We've got 80+ stations here. Papillion is starting to get a lot of success with their bike share stations. And that's the thing about bike share, is when you check out a bike, you need to be able to check it in another station within a limited amount of time. So that gap makes it so Papillion users can't get up to Omaha and vice versa. So we're excited to later this year, hopefully get our first station in city center. And we have plans after that for how to expand that system. So then for all of our recommendations, we sorted them into different facility types in the plan: trails and shared use paths, sidewalks and streetscape enhancements to improve the pedestrian experience, safety improvements, wayfinding, and then on-street facilities. So all these these different facility types, we included a toolkit of treatments for kind of your standard improvements that we might use for each of those. The point of this was just to give us a shared language when we're talking with the public or elected officials. So when we talk about a shared use path, here's what we mean, here are the benefits, and here's where this is most appropriate to use. So this is something that we encourage people to just go and steal, and you can use this. It's helpful when you're thinking about what might go in a good location to just flip through all these different types. Then finally, all of our proposals. So ultimately, we have this map with all of our different recommendations in the plan. I'm going to come back to this one. But for each proposal in the plan, we've got a brief description. We put some thumbs up next to the ones that were particularly commented on at public engagement activities and open houses. Then beyond what's in the plan, we did get some supplemental documentation for some of those projects. There's some more technical context to something that might not need to go in the plan, or that the public might not need to see. One example is, okay, we're trying to find a route for this trail. Okay, if it goes up here, it's going to be in front of these 8 houses, versus if it goes right here, it's going to be in front of these 12. We're trying to get ahead of the political implications sometimes of deciding where to site a trail and how it's going to impact homeowners. So some of these things, we needed some more information, but didn't want to put it right in the plan. We also got, for each project, the different goals in our comprehensive plan that project directly supports. So stuff that we would do at time of a grant application, but it saves us a little bit of time because it's already identified. So that was probably the biggest benefit of doing this plan, is it sets us up really well for seeking out additional funding sources and putting together grant applications more quickly. Or even just getting things in our own CIP when you gotta justify why you should do that project. We already have everything sorted by, oh, I know I can just go pull out these goals from our comp plan that this one supports. Beyond just physical infrastructure improvements, we also did have a whole section of policies and best practices that we could be implementing. This will be helpful at times where maybe we're at capacity for infrastructure projects, but we have 2 years here where we can still be working on stuff. We can go through this list and start to check off some policies or programs that the city could be engaging in. And then another component of this plan that was extremely helpful, and I think will be, is our concept projects. So we took 10 of our projects that we wanted Benish to dive into and give us some more technical information, some cost estimates, and do a kind of a general plan level feasibility study on. And some of them were high priority projects, some of them were not necessarily high priority, but super technical. And so we wanted to have a better understanding of it. Some were maybe simple, and we wanted that information now so we can act on them faster. And I'll just go through a couple examples here. So one of them was this Applewood Creek Trail that was recently put in. Well, on one side of the street, there's not a connection to Giles Road. And so there's, of course, the little goat trail or the desire path where everyone's rolling down a hill to get down to the trail. So we know we need to try and act on this somewhat quickly, and having a better understanding of, can you make the grades work? What's it gonna cost is helpful for us. Another one is a strategy on how to implement some on-street facilities to get some better east-west connectivity. So they dove into this one to identify where you need to have certain treatments, what's it gonna cost. And then another example that we're excited about is the West Patio Trail Bridge by Harrison Street. So I mentioned Southport, our Southport development, you can't get there with a sidewalk. It's very difficult to find the solution to make that happen, because along Giles, you've got 2 vehicle bridges, you've got the railroad bridge, and suddenly expanding 3 bridges to get a sidewalk is extremely cost prohibitive at the moment, until the time that we have to redo those bridges. Then you have on the north side, Harrison Street, to get to Southport. Well, we have the bridge over the interstate. There are some challenges there, expanding that connectivity as well. So the best way to do it was to put a bridge over the West Patio Trail from one side of the city that then connects to the existing sidewalk and trail network in Southport. So this is one that we adopted the plan on first week of January. The call for projects for the Transportation Alternatives Program was due that next week. But everything we got here from this supplemental stuff, we were able to roll right in and put it into a grant application and get it submitted. So we're hoping to get this one constructed in 2030 or 2029 or 2030. But what we got here is, here's your drawing, it identifies where it's going to be. We got line item, cost estimates, which makes it really easy for us to escalate those out and project what the cost is going to be, years down the line. So pretty much what we got here was everything we needed to go and throw it into a grant application. So make sure if you're going to pursue one of these plans, you have the opportunity to call out some more specific projects. That's very, very useful for us.
It's good advice.
Funding and partnerships, of course, this is what is going to determine how quickly we can roll out this plan, is the availability to access, funding sources. So called out some of those resources. And then even though the whole plan is pretty much just a book of recommendations, we did actually go and list out each recommendation so we can go through and check things off as we accomplish them. And then ultimately for approval, we did have council adopt this as part of the comprehensive plan. Just helps clearly justify that this is a priority of the city council and they're serious about it. And then, here's the ultimate network. We did go and break these down into phases. So just short-term, near-term, and long-term projects. We had a lot of conversation about, do we say 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10? We decided not to do that because so much of our ability to accomplish this is going to be alternative funding sources. So, but we do have to break it down. Otherwise, you look at that big map, you have no idea where to start, and so then you just don't. So breaking it down into the short-term ones was very helpful. We did go back to the public and have an open house when we got to this point, just to ask, is there anything not on the short-term one that really needs to be? And there were some things that we did move around from that meeting that we didn't catch in the earlier process. So very helpful to go back at this point as well.
Kale, could you explain how, on our website, you can click on those and get detail?
Yeah. Yes, we got the plan on the website. We've got all these maps. It's nice because you can when they're one-on-one, you can scroll through them and you can see how everything connects together a little bit better. Let's see what else. Next steps. So we do have a lot of good momentum going and some projects we've identified that are underway. Here's our short-term project map. So starting next year, we'll begin construction on 84th Street. We're doing a big streetscape project. We're going to put 10-foot wide shared use paths on both sides of 84th Street. As part of that project, there will be an underpass under 84th Street to connect 2 of our parks that we have there. So we can also then shoot the trail under there. We are starting design here shortly of the Thompson Creek Trail. So a trail that will go right along here. The purpose of this is to connect it to the Keystone. So we already have a connector that goes through our sports complex, Keystone, here. So this project will get us, all the way through Central Park. So we're starting to chip away at connecting to the regional trail network we're excited about. I mentioned the bike share station and city center. Let's see what else. We're going to be filling a sidewalk gap as part of the Giles Road widening project out in Southport, and then that bridge that we have in the works. So have some good momentum, and the plan is now to just keep plugging in projects into our CIP, in the out years. So are there any questions?
Yeah.
Got two of them. Very good presentation. Thank you very much. Question for you and Bruce, feel free to help out. Was this project derived from like a regional transportation plan that has already been adopted in the metro? And then second part is, how did the coordination go with the adjacent municipalities so that as your extensions get made, it's seamless going to those communities? So I'm assuming most of this is going to be through your CIP. You know, if you're proposing to build a road that's not going to have shared bike lane, but the adjacent municipality wasn't thinking that direction. How did those conversations go? How did that coordination happen?
Yeah, so at the community stakeholder workshops, we had a lot of those conversations. We did have conversations outside of that process, specifically with the other municipalities. You know, Omaha, there's a lot of things, they just did their active mobility plan, so there's a lot of projects there that we figured out what was in each of our plans so far and found, you know, tried to talk through some timing potentially of different connections. We've had some conversations with the Pavilion. We're hoping you guys do your active mobility plan.
Right.
And you know, things like on 84th Street, we're doing the shared use pass. We'd love to see that, of course, go down downtown Pavilion and go up, you know, through Ralston. So, you know, we're having those conversations, and this certainly helps facilitate that. But
So I mean, just to the broader point, we did do the Heartland Connections regional bike ped plan, which, you know, was sort of about what's there today, and then how do we make some of these broader movements across the region, and some of those are what you see here, kind of the North Star connector is really that greenway that they've highlighted there, and part of it was about exactly where Kale started, is making these connections between the regional trail network and being opportunistic. But we've seen a lot of value with the local AMP planning, just because it's getting that really coordinated with the comprehensive plans has been just a tremendous asset. Omaha, La Vista, Carlos, remind me, somebody else applied for one this year. Bellevue, yeah, that's right. So Bellevue applied for one this year, and I think that kind of tied to the local policy is really valuable, just in terms of taking it, looking at the comp plan, looking at those opportunities, knowing about that development pipeline, and we're really happy with this. Bike share is totally different than when we did the regional clip as well.
Chris, I just added, I mean, we've discussed it for a while. We're surrounded by trails and things, but we didn't have a lot of connections to them. So just as internal discussions, we talked about wanting to do something. I think MAPA, because if it wasn't for that mini grant that we got, we probably still wouldn't. You know, yeah. The fact that we didn't only had to pay 20% of it was a huge factor for our city council. As we got through it, I think they were pretty happy with the outcomes of it, and want to see things done. In fact, we haven't talked that much about it, but Kale's going to have goals every year probably from now on, and it's personal reviews on what we can accomplish to move forward, so it doesn't just sit there.
Hey, Cal, so bike share, back to that, what were your top locations that you're looking at?
yeah, so City Center was number one. Then he's been getting requests from people. We want to be able to go there. Also potentially went out here at the sports complex. It's a little closer to the Keystone, so you can easily hop on that trail. We've got a trailhead for the West Patio right here. That was probably another location. Outside the library, we'd like to put one there, because there is a little trail network in this neighborhood. And then eventually also out at Southport, probably by the sports complex.
Can we talk about the process for that? Is it complicated, or what's the coordination
Right
like
here?
on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it expensive? What's the?
Yeah, so I think Benny would be fine with me sharing. So it's about $60,000 to build a station, a new station, 10 docks. You know, that includes the bikes. And I think it's like $3,000 or $4,000 a year for Rome to operate it, which is great, because no city wants to take that on, where you are balancing the system. You can't, I mean, for it all to work. So that first cost, it can be shocking to elected officials, like, what? How can bikes cost that much? But again, once you have it in, then it's just the annual maintenance cost, but you don't have to do anything. And these new stations, you don't need utilities for them. They bring back their battery power. And so it's really quite simple to get them in the ground, but it's just that first cost. And there are potentially opportunities for grants, and he's always applying for other things. And he's got old stations that they can implement some places that are cheaper, that they're willing to use. But yeah, that's just the biggest hurdle. It's just the cost.
Yeah, I think convincing your council to move forward. We have a council that doesn't do a lot of biking themselves and aren't aware of how popular these things are. So I'll give a lot of credit to Benny. I think he calls our mayor probably monthly.
This is a resident.
Yeah, he's a resident of this.
Yeah.
And what helped us sell the city center one, because we're going through a budget amendment process to get that in so we can do it this year. Otherwise it would be, years out, is that people want to be able to ride the city center, but they can't right now with the bike share system because there's nowhere to leave your bike. And so the tourism and economic development sales pitch goes a long ways.
Carlos.
Once you have one, it's easier to justify more because then it's easier for your residents to go ride it.
Yeah, we think we'll be able to show that they're being used a lot, and we'll use that when we go to get the next one.
Yeah, and just additional like thoughts and inspirations is like, these could be put into developer agreements. So offsetting some of those costs for cities can be put on a developer's cost, right? So what do you do in that case? In lieu of parking, install one of these and reduce your parking infrastructure costs, right? So that's one other approach in coordination. The other coordination pieces is resurfacing and integrating plans such as this into regular maintenance intervals, right? So when Public Works mentions, hey, this street needs to get resurfaced, hey, let's pull up this plan and integrate that component of adding the bike lanes or adding the sidewalk gaps. Is an important part to keep an eye on so that resurfacing, reconstruction kind of becomes seamless. And not every single project needs to be a specially funded one. It could be taken on as regular city work. It's kind of the big thing. And then, we're happy to help anyone in other communities with plans like this, complete street plans, or integrating some of your land use ordinances to be more bike and pet friendly. So.
And I would just note that Carlos referred to kind of the developer side of it. Omaha recently updated their tip guidance to allow for bike share station in lieu of, I think it's 1 or 2 parking stalls. So for some more urban locations, that's been a really big benefit to where, there's not an option to do that unless you kind of, really start playing with off-street parking. And so just another tool in the toolbox and something that, developers are familiar with other sort of infrastructure elements.
We've had some initial discussions. We talked about sponsorships as well as some of the tenants or the developer to help with the ongoing maintenance costs. So.
And I would just add planning for those stations and projects, because locations key too, because in urban areas, there's not always a great spot to put 10, 12 bike stations in. So carving out those areas earlier on is really helpful.
Yeah, that's what's great with the new ones too, because it's not one big connected block. It's like little bike racks pretty much that you can angle any way you need to fit it in. Yeah, it'd be way more creative now about where they go.
To Carlos's point, our city engineer and Public Works have been heavily involved in this, and they're all the projects as they do regular things are looking at it and consulting with us.
Yeah, I do think though, La Vista's work on this AMP, it really does kind of connect 2 islands on the bike share side of things and the infrastructure side of things. Pavilion, been working a lot on your bike network, bike share on it. I had it on the tip of my tongue. What's the recreation area? We have the Pavilion Landing, but you also have the great, thank you. I'd like was right there. I was gonna say Weir-Spain and I was like, that's really but it's like one of the most highly used bike share stations in the whole system. I mean, it used to be that the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge sites were the only one that was like at a certain scale, and we've seen a number of other stations tick up over the years just because they're connected and people can use them for recreation, people can use them to get from different places. This kind of planning and investment helps us do that. So, thank you.
I had a quick one for you, and thank you. This was, like Chris said, this is very thorough. This is really good. So looks like y'all did a lot of public input and public engagement surveying. And so one of the things we think about running to an Omaha, at least discuss a lot, is, we think about public engagement, and we always do, default to going surveying people and getting information. And so the other part of this just as important is what do we do with that information in terms of pushing it out, make sure folks know what we did with their information and time. So how do you what's the strategy to make sure people understand what you're doing with the survey info, whether it's used or not, and finding ways to disseminate that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We have not really fleshed all that out yet. The good thing is because we have so many projects happening very soon in the near future, those are perfect opportunities to tie it to the greater conversation. So, oh, hey, we're doing this. You know, you told us you were interested in this project being done. Look what's happening. By the way, yeah, look at this, look at all the other stuff we have coming down the pipeline. So yeah, the answer is we don't really have that all fleshed out yet, but
During the process though, like our first meeting, we gathered info on what people wanted, and then we had another one when they came back and said, okay, here, we put it in the plan, this is what you were wanting, so they saw that, you know, did see that we were listening to them and implementing it that way.
No, that's helpful, and because public engagement is a two-way flow, and we forget that sometimes. And we don't forget, I think we could just do a better job at ensuring that information goes out, you know, when we call people together or propose some ideas or things like that. Any other questions for Ted?
I've got a real quick one as well, kind of on the same, question as Keith there. You mentioned kind of getting some of the surveys from kids, which is great for kind of the, the sidewalks and active mobility and things like that. Did you have a good strategy for kind of reaching out to them? I mean, I know I say that one of the public hearings for this event was the only planning event that I've been to that had a DJ. So, there's fun things that kind of were associated with this, but I think you could with the kids.
yeah, no, I mean, we went to some city events that were more targeted toward youth and families. So that was the biggest one. And then just our mayor's youth council. So we got that in place specific for things just like this, where we want to get input from them. And the idea is they represent their peers. Usually we send them back to go survey, their classmates or whatever, get in front of the classroom and do things like that. So our youth council was our biggest strategy. Yeah, events that, like every year we do a big pancake feed for the community center. We've got every department's represented, and so this is one of those where we touch back on, okay, what did we miss, here? But you get, just for those events, it's just families and kids mostly, so. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good stuff, Kel. Thank you. Keep us up to date on this. I know Bruce will as well. Appreciate that. Moving forward, Ashley, get ready. So let's move into the committee updates. And Ashley's going to go first, and she's going to speak to the artist formerly known as Equity Engagement Committee, and maybe even give some updates on how that title is going.
Hello, everyone. Actually, that's perfect timing. I'm about to board a flight. But we are in the process of evaluating just the committee name. As some of you know, just for funding and other things, equity is something that is being searched out in the community. And so we don't want to jeopardize the good work that MAPA is doing. And so we met last week, 2 weeks ago, just to brainstorm some possible new names. We're in between, I think, action and connection and engagement. So again, once we figure out what makes the most sense there, we will update folks, but same mission, same thing that we will be doing. And then the other big update is just, if you are free next Tuesday at 3 o'clock, we are having our North Omaha Legacy Tour for the Equity Engagement Committee and Housing and Development Committee, just to talk more about development and things that are happening in North Omaha. Everyone is welcome to join. If you're interested, just let Paul know.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Okay, wait, where are you going?
St. Louis.
All right.
I love St. Louis.
Awesome. Well, enjoy. Safe travels, and thank you for that, Ashley. And hang on as long as you can. Tell the pilot to hold off. Any questions for Ashley about this committee, or anybody interested in joining, or the only one that would need to be added? Seeing none, okay. Let's move on. Joe.
Yeah, so Ashley's committee, my committee, we work through these our committee meetings together. So once again, I'm just plugging it in. We're really excited about the North Omaha Legacy Tour. It should be exciting, kind of off-campus committee meeting. And then we're working preliminarily on our August meeting program with Christine Soap from the city of Gretna to report out on Gretna's new comp plan. So we're good there. More to come on that, but we're excited to have Christine present to us in August.
Great. Questions for Joe or anybody interested in aligning with that committee? It's a lot of great discussion and innovation going on around housing and development in a lot of different ways. We ought to very intentionally make sure we stay aligned, and maybe you'll even hear something about some housing stuff that's happening recently. Seeing no questions for Joe, Mike.
Well, Mike is not here today. I'm just gonna say that we just had our infrastructure meeting a few days ago, and we just transitioned. We were very thankful to Mike for his time as chair of the committee. Through his leadership, we were able to invite OPPD, MUD, and other important community stakeholders to present. I think we even had a site tour to the City of Omaha CSO project. I think at that point, having Mike work and find the right people to come and present gave also an opportunity to Brittany to learn how to lead the group now. And Brittany is our new chair. Brittany, go ahead and if you can just introduce yourself and talk about what happened just 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Stevens. I work for Olson. I am a water wastewater engineer. I am not a planner, so you are all overwhelming me right now, but appreciate it and looking forward to it. As Saul said, I have been learning from Derek Miller and Saul and Mike and have been voluntold-ish to get involved. So looking forward to that. Very passionate about infrastructure. As you know, we meet the first Wednesday every other month. My goal is to really just breathe new life into the infrastructure committee group. The C word, COVID, really impacted our group, right? Getting together in person and hearing diverse voices of how are we doing infrastructure responsibly. So that is my passion, and I'm very passionate about bringing different people, perspectives and voices together to see what we can do together to do that. So I think Mike's probably given you an update that we have 4 subgroups part of our committee. Really focused on holistic TIF planning, responsible infrastructure planning and investment, reconnecting communities, and digital equity plans. So I think you've heard quite a few updates probably this last year on digital equity and reconnecting communities. But 2 days ago, as Saul said, we actually had a pretty significant update from the TIF committee where they presented a fact book. They've been doing this research through Dan Fitzgerald, a graduate student from UNO and a member of the committee. Under Barbara, and he has really focused his research the past 18 months, connecting with different members through MAPA, examining the TIF usage in MAPA's 4 Nebraska counties, utilizing the state records and interviewing committee members to assess its effectiveness, and stimulating economic development in various types of areas. So he did a great presentation, presented a fact book, and I believe we can share that with a wider network. That was just presented 2 days ago. There's been a lot of discussion about, okay, what next can we do with this, right? Can we compare it to other states? Can we start getting into more details? Who owns this and what are those next steps? So that is how I'm really trying to lead, is get engaged with those 4 subtask leaders and making sure that they have a voice and resources as they need.
Great, good to see you.
I know, it's been a while.
Long time no Zoom.
I know.
We get Brittany a vote so that we can.
I was gonna just say that, yeah, we
Have
can
fun.
approve minutes now if we want.
Well, I think we should before we get out of here with the bid. So thank you for getting here because we were one short form.
I apologize for being late.
That's okay. You represent a membership here, so we'll get that done. Any questions for Sal or Britt before we move forward? Okay. Seeing none. Ken has a call. Are you still in here, Ken?
I am here.
Okay.
I am here. I think I postponed the call, so that's good.
Okay. Floor is yours.
So I guess just from a committee structure standpoint, I am going to be stepping aside. Zach Fergus, who is the co-chair, is going to be stepping into the chair position. And it's kind of an interesting time because a lot of what the committee was wanting to do with restructuring really revolved around climate action plans. And seems to be a little bit of chaos at the federal level. I've heard. So now I guess kind of stay tuned on kind of the restructuring, but really we were trying to take our subgroups and align them a little bit more with the city of Omaha's climate action plan and some of those things to support that effort. So that will happen to some degree. So that's kind of where that's at. I did want to kind of provide what I think is a really exciting update for those of us that are, I guess I've turned into this battery nerd geek, working on the what was originally LB 309, kind of transformed into a committee bill, LB 36, Safe Battery Collection and Recycling Act. Passed through the legislature, all 3 rounds of debate with 0 opposition, signed by the governor on May 20th. This is Nebraska's first foray into extended producer responsibility. It will help relieve burden on local, state government in terms of having to respond to battery fires, things like that. It is getting a lot of national attention. It's kind of ironic because some of the state attention that I think it would get, and like, okay, they've got other things they're working on, but it's getting national attention from the National Stewardship Action Council, the Product Stewardship Institute. We've got Senator Hughes, who was championing the legislation. I was asked to be on a national webinar coming up in July. I've been on a couple of things. It's an exciting time because nobody saw Nebraska doing anything. And all of a sudden, there are states all over. It's like, wow, if Nebraska can do that, what are we doing here? You know, we've got to get on the boat. So if you haven't followed some of the battery safety stuff, it is lithium ion batteries are becoming a very hot chemistry. Almost every one of these has a lithium ion battery in it. Lots of other things. If you have lawn and garden tools that have chargeable batteries, almost all of those are lithium ion batteries. The problem with lithium ion is that when that battery gets somehow compromised, nicked up, too hot, so on, sometimes they explode. When they catch on fire, they burn very hot. And that's what's causing fires in garbage trucks and various other things. So that bill will help get a handle on some of the battery issues. It's not going to get on to all of them. That kind of leads into things like vapes and other things that have batteries embedded in them. They're not designed to be taken out. So it's a whole nother challenge. The entire world is battling that right now. And stay tuned for more on that. I have several conversations coming up next week with folks who are looking at kind of getting a handle on vape issue, because it is really spiraling out of control. In the past couple of years, the number of battery-related fires has spiked, and it's almost always because of vapes that are disposable. Unfortunately, a lot of them still are targeted towards kids. And so we are fast approaching a ban that's going to be put in place, and we unfortunately will have a ban that doesn't have any plan behind it in terms of how we handle stuff. So stay tuned, but there'll be more on that upcoming. Final thing I'll say is that there are several national organizations that are now behind a push to get producers and manufacturers of any product that has some hazard to think through end-of-life management. And before that product even hits the consumer market, to have an understanding of how you're going to deal with it end of life. So that's a big problem with vapes, a big problem with a lot of things, e-waste and various other things. But so dang, that was kind of a downer, wasn't it?
A little bit.
That was. But the good news is that, yeah, Nebraska is now actually looked at as kind of cutting edge for the battery EPR stuff, getting national publicity, very positive. There, positive note. That's all I got.
Well, you know, thank you, Ken. We are not drained. We are still very charged up on the topic. And it's, you know, and as Mike said, the substantive issues that the bill was so that's a good thing. So it is not negative. So, and thank you. And Chris has a question for you. And also, go ahead.
So what does that mean for the end user? Like someone like me who has a lot of battery operated lawn toys, you know, I have security cameras in my house, I have lithium. So what does this mean for the end user? Like,
for the larger batteries, those will have to go probably to like a household hazards. So like that, Council Bluffs, it's like Tony Fiala, who runs the facility there. You should be able to take those batteries when they're at end of life to that facility. We're going to be actively growing out the collection facility across Nebraska. There are places like Home Depot and Lowe's, Staples, Best Buy that have a ongoing relationship with the National Call to Recycle group. And they are the kind of the major ones across the country that recycle batteries. So I would anticipate the Call to Recycle will be the stewardship organization as part of the Nebraska bill. That's again a ways away, but we'll be actively working to with volunteer networks and others to get the word about how to manage these things properly. But then also, along with that, here's where you can take your batteries now, and that list will grow. But I'd say that's look to the HHW facilities like in Omaha, Sarpy County, or Douglas, Sarpy County. It's under the sink. I'm going to be having conversations with someone in Washington County trying to how we can maybe pull Washington County into that coalition as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you for your leadership with this committee, Ken. We appreciate it. And when will Zach be taking over?
This is probably my last meeting of this group because I think he'll take my position. Laura will continue to be the county representative. But basically July 1st, I think. Is that right, Laura?
Yeah,
That's so sad.
Fiscal year.
Can we at least get virtual, Ken?
Yes.
Well, thank you for serving. Can come on and talk some trash every now and then with us if you would like. And Laura being here is great as well. Laura, you will hang in there with us. That's awesome. And then Zach will take over.
I can tell you that the one subgroup of natural resources, the solid waste working group, has a meeting coming up on July 2nd. We now have 155 members of that subgroup.
Oh, wow.
We meet by Zoom, 2 p.m. on those days. The last one we had 52 people on. A lot of good interaction. And it's just amazing. We have people now all across the state that are into this because this is now becoming I would say kind of a clearinghouse for solid waste discussions. And it's helping to drive some of these collaborations, which is very good. I mean, I think so. I applaud MAPA for kind of putting the structure together, and there's some good things coming out of it. So
That's great. That's great. Well,
I'll keep pushing on that.
You please come back anytime. In that case, we won't call for new and additional members to that subcommittee. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thanks for your work on this, Ken. Let's come back anytime. Any final questions for Ken or for natural resources? Seeing none. Okay. Well, okay. Before we go to MAPA updates, let's circle back to item B. And I'd like to entertain, now that Britt's here, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes April. Is there a motion? Motion second, Christine. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none. Okay. The minutes from April are passed. That's awesome. So now, next time we just approve those. Do it right?
We did
That's a
good.
street.
Good job, everybody.
Also, if you would, please make sure to review those minutes and refer back to them so they are kept well, they come out fast. And we appreciate that. It's quality info in there, and it's a good way to look at the progression of the discussions we're having and help others who want to know what this committee is doing in addition to watching. understand what's being shared, what's being discussed, and what the relevant data are. So thank you for that. Okay, now let's move back down to item D2, MAPA updates.
Sure, so I'll kick us off here, Laura, and then I'll let Grant and Carlos talk a little bit more specific. You just want to go back one slide here before we get to the UPWP. Let's talk MAPA budget in general. You know, the RPAC calendar sort of overlaps in our budget in a strange way. Back in February, we talked to you a little bit about our member survey results and sort of the priorities we heard from the communities. In April, we talked about kind of our draft work program and kind of our scope and planning for the year. And our board always takes action on our budget in May, kind of setting us up for July 1 execution. And so June comes sort of right at the tail end of all of that. And what I would say, you know, kind of overall, a lot of what we do is sort of continuous. And I would say, you know, a lot of what we're looking ahead to do next year looks a lot like what we did this year, with some, I would say, kind of key projects and initiatives that we're looking to advance. Carlos is going to talk a little bit about the LRTP, but I'd like to give Mr. Grant Anderson an opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the ComDev work and some kind of key initiatives that we're pulling together. And then Carlos, Carlos brought slides. It's a PowerPoint addict, but
Closer.
That's right.
Closer.
Closer.
Moses get called
ABC.
That's
Yeah,
right.
always be close.
Thank you.
I don't have any fabulous slides, but that's okay. You know, as Mike mentioned, a lot of our priorities are really informed by the annual survey results and by our just regular community outreach efforts. So you know, that's literally us just getting in a car, going to communities, meeting with city staff, mayors, city council persons, and just, you know, hearing what they have to say. And, you know, as Mike also said, you know, like this work always, it is continuous. But, you know, based on the survey feedback, just our conversations with communities, what our priorities are kind of boil down to 5 things or 5 pillars: grant writing, project management, planning and capacity building, information sharing, just being a shared resource for our members, blight and disinvestment. What that means for us is downtown revitalization, helping communities with code enforcement, trying to find strategies to deal with vacant properties, blighted properties, dilapidated buildings, etc. And disaster resilience. On disaster resilience, I'm really calling it disaster planning. In our region, every county has been in at least, I think, 2 presidential disaster declarations in the last year, which is incredible. So, I mean, I think we all know that, you know, we're seeing more of these, you know, very dangerous, you know, disruptive hazard events. And, you know, for the most part, I'm speaking very generally, but, you know, the recovery, it's a very local thing. It's not all that regionalized. And, you know, we've had some conversations very recently with the emergency management director at Douglas County and some other emergency managers in the region. And, you know, we would like to investigate ways that MAPA can be a more regional shared resource when it comes to coordinating efforts to plan for disasters and then to help mobilize things after events happen. So whether that's managing debris, mobilizing contractors and communities, communicating the do's and don'ts for communities, or, you know, best practices, you know, things that they should consider doing or not doing immediately following a disaster, and just directing people to resources, whether that be food, water, shelter, financial assistance. So, you know, we're really just trying to look at ways to fill gaps and to hopefully reduce fragmentation. Another thing I'll mention specifically unrelated to disasters is that MAPA has a 501c3 foundation. It's called the MAPA Foundation. With that, the Nebraska Department of Economic Development recognizes MAPA Foundation as a nonprofit development organization. So what that means is we've been capitalizing a revolving loan fund for a number of years that originated from CDBG program income. And I think the time is now, just based on these conversations we've had around housing, disaster recovery, resilience. It's time to be a little more intentional with how we can align ourselves to be, more of a shared resource for these communities. So, we're looking to do some strategic planning around that. And we're also looking at potentially retaining a consultant at some point, just to help us be more intentional and to see where we can be a more strategic partner. So again, there will be more to come, but I think for now, we just want to finally take the time to see how we can take this organization, the MAPA Foundation, and activate it in a way that is being more of a use and a benefit to our members. And really the other two things that I'll call out that are big priorities for us this year, our comprehensive economic development strategy sets, that's a 5-year regional plan that we are currently updating, and that'll be due to our federal partner Economic Development Administration at the end of this year. I have spoken about the SEDS to this group. I don't believe it was the last RPAC meeting, but maybe 2 meetings ago. We'll re-engage with you on the SEDS at the August meeting. So there's more to come on that. And then, as you also know, we've hired a consultant, Community Scale, to help us produce a market value analysis for our 6-county region. And I think some of you have been invited to focus group conversations. The consultant was here just last month. So we're really excited about it. It's really just a data-driven tool to see market conditions in real estate in this region. So they're currently working to finish that deliverable. It should be complete at the end of this month. So obviously throughout the rest of the summer, we'll be working to roll that out, demo it to our community members or partners. And then the final thing I'd like to mention is something that we don't really have a clever name for yet. It's really just a train-the-trainer curriculum. So we do a lot of work in the small rural communities in our region, and we just decided that a lot of what we've been doing is kind of triage. It's kind of reactive, and we want to focus more now on helping communities kind of around this curriculum on grant writing, project management, citizen engagement. We're always going to be available to help our communities do those things, but we realize that if you just have enough sort of motivated individuals or volunteers, there are a lot of impactful things that communities and small groups of people can do, and they don't have to rely on MAPA necessarily or a private consultant. They can achieve some of these things on their own. It's just presenting them with the information, pulling back the curtain, kind of demystifying things like grant writing and dealing with federal and state partners. So I'll speak on anything that you think I may have missed, but those are our priorities for the year, and there are a lot of exciting things going on. Yeah.
And maybe just more of a comment. You mentioned the emergency management piece, and you mentioned debris management and so on. So I just, we were looking at how can MAPA support, like through the Natural Resources Committee and so on, tying to climate action plan. Well, one of the climate action plan goals is to reduce organics going into the landfill by 5%. So right there, if we are not taking tree debris into the landfill, but it logistically is challenging, especially outside of urban areas. You get in the western part of the county and it's difficult to find staging areas. There just aren't big box parking lots and various such stuff where you can stage some stuff. But also opportunities with other, the tornado comes through, you've got all sorts of different kinds of materials there that some can't go in the landfill, but where are they going? And so, trying to organize that, maybe it's a little bit like herding cats, but I mean, it's challenging, but there's opportunities there. So maybe there's, and I know Whitney the emergency management director, is really making efforts to do more. It's more of a strategic planning and looking at the processes that are in place for handling emergencies that weren't really used as effectively in the past as they could have been. So I think we learned a lot from the Arbor Day tornado last year and the windstorms and so on. So she's putting a lot of good, I think, practices in place that will help everybody in the MAPA region.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point there. And I think, you know, you think about something like a goal in those climate action plans, about 5%, fewer organics going into, the landfill, and that's not something we're going to achieve all at once. But, if kind of to Grant's point, part of that is, okay, well, let's understand where some of these larger staging areas might be. What do those partnerships look like? Can we start those conversations? That's really, a data product. And we look at the other side and, what resources can we give to volunteer groups, to church groups, to other organizations that are, on the ground in some of those communities that are affected initially, that maybe just sorting things at the curb differently gives us an opportunity to chip away at that. And so we're really looking across the bookend of that and saying, okay, where do public agencies fit into this? The landfill is shared between Washington County and Douglas County. Sarpy County and Mills have this kind of solid waste relationship. And so there's a regional scale to even small improvements that we can make. And so really just trying to tick away at that and just kind of viewing some of that planning just as more of a continuous process, because we're never going to get out of what seems to be this response and recovery timeframe. And so what can we do as a resource to those larger jurisdictions, or the larger regions rather, to find some scale? And so lots of opportunity there. Thank you, Grant. Any other questions?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Grant. And
how big is your MAPA fund or whatever?
Not
Nah.
but getting bigger. So I mean, we've made some the functionality of the MAP Foundation is based on those program income funds. So communities across the region, from Omaha to Blair to Plattsmouth to Ralston to they've had these CDBG grants, and what NDED has allowed to occur is that those funds, when they're loaned out on a project, are loaned out by the community as a CDBG project, and then they're paid back as basically non-federal dollars into the MAPA Foundation. So there's several of those out there right now. Biggest example that we've been able to do is about $1 million loan fund in Blair, where about $200,000 of that came from the MAPA Foundation, those NDO funds. There was a workforce housing fund in there. There were some NIFA funds in there. There were some local contributions, and that got us to about $1 million. And it's really understanding what do those capital stacks look like, what do those opportunities look like across the region, and probably mostly some of the smaller communities. Are there models that we're not doing that we should be doing? And having a proactive plan, because we never had that kind of resource to use and be a partner with our communities. Plattsmouth, we had a partnership with them on an application that was unsuccessful this past year, but really just trying to go all in on, we have this shared resource, how do we make the highest and best use of it now?
And one thing I should have said, the nice thing about the MAPA Foundation, at least as the state of Nebraska sees it, it gives us a point of entry to apply for grant funding that otherwise local governments or governmental entities wouldn't be eligible to apply for. So as a foundation, we've had those partnerships with communities like Plattsmouth, like Blair, where we've been able to work with them, apply for a grant and receive that and administer it on their behalf.
Gotcha. That's great. Good question, Manny. And
How much money you need, Manny?
Which money do you need?
I'm not asking you.
Changes every time the loan payment is made.
Let's see Carlos's fancy slides here. Smart upstream investments that are paying dividends or don't pay dividends. That's
Alrighty. So on the yearly, we have to provide a unified planning work program. This is this year's, as Mike alluded to earlier on. This is one part of the larger MAPA puzzle. We receive our federal funding from PL planning funding, and it's kind of split up into PL and FTA funding, the majority of which comes from the PL side, the planning side. This graph is just a comparison. We're a dual state. We receive funding from the state of Nebraska. the pass-through funding from the state of Nebraska and the state of Iowa. And this is just showing that on the Nebraska side, we get the bulk of the funding. Overall, some of the things that we're working on or looking to do for this upcoming year is really closing our metropolitan transportation plan. This is our big project every 5 years, and you'll hear a lot more from my team about it, but those are due in the fall. So there's a lot of work that we're trying to get done, working on complete streets. A big ticket item that we are looking to start off this year is our regional freight plan. So we haven't looked at freight within the context of our transportation management area in quite a while. And so this is going to be our first foray into that. I think one of the key things that we are focusing on is this excellence in administrating projects. So we're introducing an on-call project list. So for these mini grants with La Vista and others, we want to administer those with excellence in mind, and we're instituting a lot of internal back-end things. Overall, on the data side, again, this is tied to our metropolitan transportation plan, is this travel demand update. We're updating it to a base year 2022, which you'll hear more about. But again, a lot of big lifts, a lot of things that the region relies on us for data and information. And those are kind of the key things. Overall, our budget splits out to about 5 million overall. With half of that, almost half of that coming through contracts and subrecipients. And the other half covering our labor and administrative costs. And I think that's it for MPP or for UPWP, unless there's any questions.
I would just highlight the on-call piece. Part of what we've seen is, a lot more interest from our members in these kind of planning projects like the AMPS, like some of these corridor studies. And the challenge with using federal funds is that we always have to go out here. And, a city, we might award funds in May. It might not be ready to go until January 1. And then we look at, okay, well, it's going to take us 5 months to get this project up and rolling with a consultant. And so we're about a year out from that award. And what we've tried to do, to Carlos's point there, is build a model that we know NDOT uses on this on-call planning list, have a broad depth of experience kind of available on call, so that community reaches out to us January 1. We might be able to even get that done within a month or two to get that project up and rolling and being more responsive. And so it took a lot of work. I mean, it took us a year. I'm just going to be real quite honest to get the state to sign off on that process. But I think it's a huge opportunity. And then on the data piece, I would just note that list of feedback that we got through the market value analysis. We got just a laundry list of resources and things that our members say they want and partners say they want. And it's really given us an opportunity to kind of look more broadly at, okay, how do we put these pieces together? So thank you for that engagement, because it's really kind of given us I would say a framework to kind of look at how do we chip away at some of these needs across the region. So more to come there.
Come on.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
So I'm going to give you a bit of a teaser of what we're working on with the updates to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So this is a federally required document. It's a kind of a core product of MAPA's. Updated over 5 years. We did this last in 2020. Basically, we're looking out to 2050, just like we did the previous one. So we're mostly just doing a kind of a refresh of the plan we put together in 2020. So we'll be going through and updating the travel demand model for the region. Basically, it's what a lot of the jurisdictions use to forecast traffic flows throughout the region. We'll also be updating the performance metrics that are in there. Some of them required, some of them that we developed locally, and then also kind of like I guess what everybody's really interested in is a list of projects that we're seeing forecasted through 2050. Previously, we were referring to this document as the Long Range Transportation Plan, or the LRTP. The federal guidance is shifting more towards just calling it a Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So we're using the term MTP going forward. It's how we're kind of differentiating the current LRTP and then the kind of what we're working on with the new MTP. We're basically rolling in any of the planning work that's been done since the last time that we updated the document. We're in the process of updating the travel demand model and loading in all of the projects that we see that have been discussed over the last 5 years, in addition to anything that we've identified previously that's still of interest to the regional community. One of the big things that we're adding to the plan, or I guess enhancing, not to say that we didn't have safety in the current LRTP, but with the completion of the regional comprehensive safety action plan, safety is going to be a big focus. And as we're going through each of the chapters, kind of beefing that up, and then all of the planning recommendations that are in that comprehensive safety action plan will be in the project list for this plan. A lot of the, again, most of what we're focused on here, like I said, we're updating that travel demand model. We're going through and creating some new tools for mapping of the projects that will be in the region. The current LRTP is very static in that regard. There's snapshots that were taken when we first adopted the plan, and although we've updated the project list, we haven't done a great job of making it easy for folks to get in there and kind of just peruse everything that's in there, especially by using like a geographic information system. So we're updating some of those. We're going to try to make it a little bit more dynamic, a little more of a living thing as we go through the next 5 years. So one of the big things that one of the big efforts that we've had to go through in updating the travel demand model is doing some population forecasting. So we're updating the assumptions that will underlie that travel demand model. And one of the things that we're seeing is that the projections that we have been using in the past, they're kind of a reevaluation of that is that the growth is not quite as strong as what we were seeing back in 2015 and then in 2020. So the forecasted growth within the transportation management area, so basically the 2 counties in Nebraska, Douglas and Sarpy, and a portion of Potawatomi County in Iowa, the growth just isn't quite, it's not quite as intense as what we were forecasting previously. So the projections are going to be a little bit more conservative. They're not, we kind of struck a balance between a couple different data sets that we were looking at, a couple of different forecasts. So it's, it's not a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like in 2050, but we're not forecasting quite as much of a population increase as we had in the previous or the existing LRTP.
Why is in 2025, say what that blue bar represents and what area it's referring to?
Okay, yeah, so basically these are the population totals for the 2 counties in Nebraska. So this would be Sarpy County, Douglas County, and a portion of Potawatomi County in Iowa. Mostly Council Bluffs, with a little bit extra on top of that. So those are basically all of the numbers that you see that are up to, well, I don't know if 2025 is also an estimate. That's not an actual total number, but the number before that would be the population totals for 10, 15, 20, and then out from that would be forecasts based on, various trends in both kind of natural increase as well as migration in and out. So in addition to that, we also have to forecast where development is going to occur. So if we're going to have a population increase, where is that all of that going to be happening? And I know this, like I said, most of this is all just kind of a teaser. It's a sample of what we're working on. So this is kind of where we sit. This basically what you're looking at is a heat map of where we expect growth to occur based on population projections, conversations with local jurisdictions, what you're projecting for future land use. We had a very lengthy conversation after the last RPAC meeting of kind of all about that, trying to collect that information from y'all. We appreciate the feedback that we got through that process. And we're working to put all of this into the travel demand model, so have that updated model for this new MTV. So getting into kind of like what what the plan is really there to do. If you recall from the current LRT, I know some of you were around when we presented on this in the past. There were 4 chapters that focus on the goals of the plan. So the first one of that is access to opportunity. That's one of the main goals. We're not updating the goals for this MTP. We're basically just refreshing, kind of taking a new look after we're, have spent 5 years with that and seeing what's been accomplished since 2020, and how do we want to talk about these things over the next 5 years. So access is basically, we want to develop a regional transportation network that enables everybody to access what they need: jobs, healthcare, recreation, etc. So what you see here is we'll be redeveloping some of the maps like this, but this is just kind of an example of one of the things that we're looking at is where there is frequent transit service compared to where the jobs are in the region. So the colored areas show kind of how many jobs that can be accessed via public transportation. This is the kind of analysis that we've got in the FTP. So there'll be things kind of like this throughout the chapter where we talk about, as the region grows, how do we maintain and enhance opportunities like this to access all of these different things. Chapter 3 is attracting and retaining talent. So this is basically, it's about placemaking. If we want to attract and retain people, young professionals, then we need to make places where those people want to be, where they want to live, where they want to work, where they want to hang out, that sort of thing. So, different land use decisions have to be made to support placemaking, and transportation is, intimately linked with those land use decisions. So how we design both the transportation network as well as the built environment will impact how we retain and attract people to the region. And the charts on the left, those are basically showing currently this was, and this is one of the things that we're updating in the plan. But back when we did the LRTP in 2020, this shows you kind of like the mode split. So 74% would drive alone, but when we conducted a survey, that number drops to 58%. Like the desire for other modes such as carpooling, walking, biking, transit, that sort of thing. There's a latent demand there that we're not capturing, and it is kind of hard to capture that with just raw usage data, because if there's not a bridge, how do you measure how many people want to get across the body of water? So those kinds of surveys help us kind of tap into that. You can see what the latent demand is for some of these things, and so this chapter is all about kind of creating those spaces that would attract and retain, kind of prevent the brain drain that's often talked about in the region. And then the 4th chapter, economic growth throughout the region, pretty straightforward, and where although we kind of we don't dive too deep into like some of the freight flows and things like that in this chapter, but it's something that we do talk about. But one thing I would like to highlight is we'll be beginning a regional freight study either later this year or early next year that will really get into the weeds all about that. So kind of the freight planning and kind of all those flows and effectively how do we safely and efficiently move freight as well as people. That's kind of what this chapter is all about. And we'll get into more depth about that in the freight study. And then the final goal is stewardship of the transportation system. This is all about making sure that what we already have stays in good condition. Simplest example of this is pavement condition. We've got an example of kind of where pavement condition on the Iowa side of the region has been since 2014. We don't have all the Nebraska data packaged up yet, but like I said, this is just kind of a preview of what we've been working on. So we'll be evaluating the existing conditions and then also putting together kind of the long-term estimates for operations and maintenance costs. And then once we, looking at all those goals, if we've got things that we want to do to achieve those goals, we're going to need some money to pay for it. So that's where we get into revenue estimation. We're still kind of putting all of that together. Be based on local budgets, historic federal funding, spending in the region, all that sort of thing. So we kind of look at the history of what we can reasonably expect, and then forecast that out. And we're like I said, we're still kind of developing that, but the current LRTP is about 8 billion in revenue through 2050. And we don't think that there will be a huge deviation from that. It'll probably be about in that range. Might be a little bit more. We did decently well over the last 5 years with that federal funding. So I think the federal aid number will probably be a little bit higher than what we were estimating in 2020. So that number might bump up a little bit. And then that gets us into the projects themselves. So we have been collecting regionally significant projects from different planning efforts from all the different jurisdictions. So we've been going through things like the La Vista Active Mobility Plan. We'll be taking those projects and rolling those into the MTP. So anything that's been done since 2020, we're rolling all of that into there. We're also rolling things forward from the existing LRTP. And we're estimating the total impact to be $6 to $10 billion. So you remember that revenue number was about 8 billion. So if we're on the high end on the project list here, we won't have quite enough money to actually pay for all the things that we want to do. But if we're on the low end, we'll have a little bit left over. I suspect we'll probably come close to about that 8 billion number from revenue. But we may go a little bit over. We might have to list a few things as illustrative. Because we will have to fiscally constrain this plan, so we'll be showing that we have to show the feds that we can pay for the things that we really want to do. We will be bringing a draft back in August, so we'll have something a little bit more firm then, and then ultimately we'll be asking for our board to approve the document in September. It is due to the feds in October, and we'll come back and do a presentation in October. But there's an RPAC meeting in October, right? Isn't that right? Am I on the right?
I think so.
Right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, in October. We'll present the kind of the findings of the final plan. That's all I have. Any questions on the MTP as it stands right now?
Questions? Now, how frequently is this updated?
Every 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Every 5 years. So we'll be back doing the same thing in 2030.
On the fives and zeros.
Right.
You know, just like your news on the fives and zeros.
We anticipate there will be a more substantial update in 2030. We kind of do like TikTok system. So 2020 was a huge update compared to 2015. And then this is kind of a small update, and we'll do another large update. So every 10 years, we do a major overhaul of the document. So we'll reassess the goals and everything like that in 2020, whereas this time it's just kind of a continuation and a refresher of what we did in 2020.
Great, thank you. Is the area that you talked about at the beginning, is that determined by the federal guidelines, or do we get to say what the transportation area is?
We have a little bit of say in that. So we get, when the census drops, there's updates to the urban area boundaries and, population totals and stuff like that get reassessed. So, and we do get to have some say in what's included and what's not included, because, we provide local context to it. So if something doesn't make sense, or we think that something's grown enough that it should be in the urbanized area, then yeah, we can make some of those adjustments, but it starts with a better process.
Questions for Court?
Oh, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but when is the traffic demand model anticipated to be available?
Sometime later this summer.
The final will be available when the plan is adopted in September.
Okay.
So that's when we will officially open it up. If there are additional projects or things that need a little bit of attention, we might be able to do a little bit of something, but wouldn't expect it until September when this is fully baked and done. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Court. Thanks, MAPA team. Are there any other MAPA updates that need to be provided?
One more.
Okay.
So there's a somewhat of a system plan to the larger metropolitan transportation plan. That's the RPA 18 regional, long range transportation plan. This is a requirement from Iowa DOT. MAPA currently administers the RPA 18 that covers the counties of Harrison, Mills, Shelby, and the urbanized portion of Potawatomi. So that would be exclusive of the portions that are included under the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Similar to that, though, it has to be updated every 5 years with a 20-year planning horizon. And again, a lot of the similar things. This is just an existing status and future needs of the transportation system. both report, but also look ahead into what we want to accomplish in the next 20 years. And looking at a lot of those different demographic, economic, different social factors that are relevant. And that can next update due November of this year. So what is included in that? Like I said, the status of future needs. This also really helps to direct our efforts for what we're doing in that region, including those programming investments and incorporating different plans that are already being developed and put together that are relevant to that region. So this is sort of a comparison of our last plan goals as well as the updated goals for this current round for the 2050 LRTP. Got safety and security, that's pretty much stayed the same. We did add the security portion. For all of these goals, we've really put an emphasis on safety, system resilience, and a look at those different modal transportation options. And making sure that those have been emphasized. Some of that was based off of the work that Iowa DOT has been doing. For example, they completed their VRU assessment back in 2023. That's vulnerable road users, which includes cyclists, pedestrians, and others that are on the road that would not be considered motorized transport. Just going back down again, transportation options really hits on that. What different modal options we're offering in the region. So working with the transit providers, preservation and resilience. Iowa DOT has a state plan that they put together called the Resilience Improvement Plan. That's looking at all the different hazards that are occurring in the region, such as flooding. We've had a lot of issues, especially related to the Missouri River, roads being washed out, things like that. Harsh winter weather, tornadoes, heat damage. All of those different environmental factors have a huge impact on our transportation system, especially in these rural areas where there's limited routes and ways to get places, as well as making sure that it's not interrupting those economic avenues, especially for a lot of these farming communities. We've also got, again, economic vitality. So that's a lot of the similar, we want to make sure we're promoting projects and resources and plans that are promoting the economic growth of the region. A lot of these are really small communities, right? So even small things can make a really big difference. So we want to make sure we're supporting them as best we can. Land use and growth and sustainability. That gets us back to kind of that combination that Court was talking about, where land use really has an impact on the transportation system and the people that live in these communities. It's not a closed system. We can't just look at transportation when we're talking about a transportation thing. You have to look at the other factors that are involved in that. So that's kind of an update to what our goals are going to look like for this upcoming revision to the plan. The timeline is looking like we're working on our updates to the plan actual development currently, and that'll go through July. We'll have a draft report in August. It'll be open for public comment after that through fall, and then we'll have that final plan in November. We will also be able to give you guys an update at that different. If you have any comments that you would like to give regarding that plan, or pass information on to people you think might be interested or that might otherwise have thoughts, we've got our website page is active, as well as email and phone number. Nice.
Well, I added one for you after this too, so I was like, nobody's gonna do it. We'll just chat.
So kind of really related to the safety portion that we've been talking about, the LRTP, we are currently working on putting together Safe Streets for All program for 7 communities that are not covered under similar Safe Streets for All plans in the area. You might have heard of, there's one on the MPO side that covers like areas like Council Bluffs, Crescent.
So I put maps on both of them because I thought it would be confusing.
Lovely. Yeah. So this would be for the NTO plan. That we finalized that current You finalized the CSAPs, the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, which includes a project list, prioritized, and data-driven, which those have been, we've also developed community profiles for each of those. So if you're from Bellevue, there's a specific Bellevue community profile that has a list of those top 10 projects that have been put together for the community, as well as different policy changes that are recommended for the next project length. If you have more questions, yeah, we're working currently with 4 different communities to put together grant applications. So now that a lot of these projects are included in the regional CSAP, we're able to apply for additional funding for implementation and demonstration grants. And so we're working with 4 communities right now to put those grant applications together so that we can really jump into making sure that these are actually going to be changes made in the community, in the lived environment, and not just a plan that was put together and put on a shelf. So we want to make sure we're turning this from a plan into a program and really making sure that it's being carried forward. So on the flip side of that, I got a little ahead of myself. We are putting together also another similar plan, but for only these 7 cities. Missouri Valley, Heartland, Atlantic, Red Oak, Glenwood, Shenandoah, and Corinda. We've partnered with RPA 13. We do a lot of collaborative work with them. The reason we're only doing those 7 cities is because one, you'll see the cutout that is covered under the NPO plan that we've previously put together, and then the counties of these 7 counties are covered under a 97 county Iowa plan that was put together in collaboration with most of the rest of Iowa. Because of that, these counties or these cities were too large to fall under those plans, and so they were kind of left out. We wanted to make sure we gave them an opportunity to take a look at the different safety needs that were existing in their communities, and do that data-driven process that we did on the NPO side. Currently, we have procured a consultant team that is partially based out of Atlantic, and they're helping us put together some materials. We just finalized stakeholder mapping, so we're going to be moving forward with a workshop, which is going to be held on June 17th of this month. Yeah, this month, and that workshop is going to help us really connect with those communities and kind of get an idea for what the people in those areas want to see happen, what areas they are identifying as different safety hazards, and yeah, just making sure we're involved in the community in that entire process. So that plan will be also finalized in November.
Next year.
What?
Of next year.
Yes, next year. That date's not. Oh. Okay. No. Great.
Well, great. Thank you for that. I think that it's important to provide updates that include, resilience and vitality and sustainability. Those are really good updated goals for that. So thank you for sharing that. Any questions? A lot of acronyms.
Yes.
Hey, a lot of acronyms. Are you following? You catching all those?
Everything's up here.
All right.
There's gonna be a test, yeah.
Well, good. Okay, so thank you for those updates. We're gonna move to community updates. We're still a little bit ahead of schedule here. So for community updates, if you have events and projects on the horizon or recent events, briefly share about those. So who has something noteworthy to share that's coming up and or that has passed recently? I don't know, maybe like this week.
Wait, I'm gonna say our 2 then real quick, because we have our upcoming Council of Officials meeting coming on June 18th. It's at venues at the Granary at Ralston. It's a great venue if you haven't been there. We're excited to hear from the Omaha Airport Authority about kind of their overall terminal modernization program and where they're at with that. So that'll be really exciting. And then we are hiring for a transportation planner as well. So if you know anybody who wants to join our awesome team. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Chris?
All right, for the city council bluffs, a lot of good things just happened. Last week, the state of Iowa did approve our annexation down in Mills County. So right now we're in our 30-day window of appeals. And once that's done, about 743 acres, southern portion of Omaha County, north side of the interchange of Runge Avenue, will now be council bluffs. So huge for us. It's going to help facilitate some large industrial developments, a couple big projects on the horizons, and it's going to be exciting for everybody. I think it's a win-win for Omaha County, Mills County, and for the city council bluffs. And I'm excited that one's over with. It's been a long time in the making. I think that process has taken about 6 months from start to finish up to this point. So excited about that. This weekend, Summerfest will be held at Tom Hannigan's Park. So please come down and visit. That's one of our biggest city events that we have throughout the year. We have a drone show, I think at 9:30 at night. Food vendors, painting faces, all that kind of good stuff will be down there. I'm volunteering. I'm working at the bike share station. So if you're dropping off a bike, I'll be there babysitting for you tonight. So you'll be in good hands, I promise you. And then while you're down there, just take a look. The Mid-American Adventure Tower is actually vertical now, along with the tree walk. So all that's coming out of the ground, it's on the north side of the Bob Carey Bridge. Be a very attractive amenity. We're excited about it. That should be done by the fall of this year. I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be like 200 feet tall with roller glide on it and rock climbing walls. So big amenity for us. It really kind of ties in downtown Omaha as far as American Park down to our side of the river. So check it out if you're down there. Good stuff happening this week at Council Bluffs.
Summerfest.
Summerfest.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. What else? What else is coming?
All right, we put out well, as Joe Flaxter mentioned, Gretna redid its comprehensive plan that went into effect mid-April. The next thing that we're doing, we put out an RFP to have our zoning regulations and subdivision regulations updated. So we received the RFPs last week, so we'll start going through those. And so that's the next step. We expect to complete overhaul of our zoning and then also update our subdivision regulations so they're a lot clearer. And then in the next fiscal year, I have actually requested funding to do a Parks and Open Space Master Plan, which would include a trails plan. So the city has never had one of those at all. So
It's exciting. Thanks for that, Kristen. Keep us posted on that. What else?
Question, what's the timeline on the potential trails open space plan?
well, our fiscal year runs with the federal fiscal year. So I just put in my funding request to my boss about 2 weeks ago, and then she'll go through that, and then hopefully it'll go to city council to approve. And so it would not go into effect until October 1st. So
2026.
Oh no, the new fiscal year would go into effect October 1st of this year.
Okay.
And then we would, so if I was hoping it's approved, then we would work on an RFP and put that out. So
okay. The reason I ask is that with the mini grant for updating the Western Douglas County Trails Plan. So it seems like now timing wise, that might kind of coincide fairly nicely.
All right, good.
So
great.
For what it's worth.
Good.
Great, thanks. Sure.
Just a couple things for the plan. We are about to break ground on our first TIF project. So we've never utilized TIFs. So all we have left is to get the redevelopment contract for city council, and then we look at breaking ground probably in October, hopefully a little sooner. We're also working on a multi-jurisdictional grant with Bellevue on housing resiliency in the event of a natural disaster. So we might want to look at building in some of the things that you're working on. We also have the city parks being redone, and that project will start in the Park Pavilion Days, which is June 10th through the 15th. And then, so we are redoing our entire city park downtown, and that should be complete and ready by next year. So just short, sweet.
Nice. Is that park project fully funded by the city, or are there any public-private partnerships going on there?
No, it's funded by the city.
Sweet. Awesome. Congratulations.
Michelle, which project's driving the TIF with us?
So Urban Waters, we have an old public works building that is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with downtown Pittsburgh, but the old historic building. The mayor, it's near and dear to his heart. He didn't want it torn down. We had looked at doing mixed use, but because of the cost of rehabbing the old building, we were able to utilize TIF, and it'll be a 48 unit multi-housing. So 12 buildings, and Jerry Reimer with Urban Waters had won that award, and he did
the bungalows at Prairie Queen previously, so we'll be bringing that same model down. We're kind of excited, so it'll bring some more people down to our downtown and.
Sorry. Once you start TIF, you can never go back, so enjoy, good luck.
Not to sound naive, so pretty much all your development has all been paid for by developers.
We have never, ever used TIF. And so when I came in, Mike was here, my first week, I came in and met with some of the team here and I said, well, it's not my background. And they said, you're gonna get a quick education. And so I did, and we set up with, a good attorney and we are looking at doing some
Okay.
carefully and strategically, but we will be doing that.
Thank you. You want to talk about the developers symposium that took place this week? Say a word on that.
Yeah, we hosted a 2-day development symposium together with Spark and Land Bank. So it was second year Front Porch's first year partnering with that group. I think we ended up with about 280 attendees. So we're super excited. I somewhere around 40 breakouts. Excited to have Mayor-elect speak yesterday. And I think there's a couple of Nebraska Examiner articles. I saw another one that was just released today with some quotes. So lots of exciting announcements, some commitments from the Downing brothers to come back to Omaha and do something big. Apparently they hit it off with the mayor. So excited to have some national partnerships and things to look forward to in the future. But it was really good time. Yeah.
Very successful, extremely well done. Thanks for sharing that.
And yeah, if anybody's in the room that we lived in speaking, thank you, because we had a lot of speakers, so.
Good. Anything else for the good of the order? Katie, what you think? Are you gonna come back?
I might, don't think about it.
Well, you are so inclined. You're welcome to come back and
Thank you.
network here. Use this room to get where you want to go, okay? We entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
Oh, let's just ask for public
Thank you,
comment,
thank
just in
you.
case.
Laura, are there any public comments issued? Thank you.
Oh, you guys wanna hang out all day with us, that's what, okay, let's go.
And public comments cannot come virtually, is that correct, Laura?
Oh, we can do virtual,
They can?
that's fine.
Okay, all right. Well, don't start.
No voting online, that's all.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thanks,
Motion
everybody's
second.
still on mine. Have a great day, guys.
Unanimous.
Good luck
Sit there.
recovering.
Thank you. All right, Charles, let's do this.
So I have to do